Release all the files. I just don't get that energy right now when these other things matter more than Epstein's files.
Well, listen, this is a boogeyman that clearly resonates with tens of millions of Americans because they're sick of powerful people, powerful men in particular, abusing these power imbalances that exist within the structure to then benefit themselves, to hide stuff for themselves, and to let Jeffrey Epstein or the people in his immediate circle get away.
In this video, progressive commentator Adam Mockler joins Chris Cuomo on his show on News Nation to talk about the ongoing Epstein saga and other topics facing both the Republican, Democratic parties and the Trump administration. I want to take a look at clips of this conversation between Adam Mockler and Chris Cuomo. I'm going to have my opinions to add, and then I want to know what you think of the comments, but let's check it out together.
So, Adam, help me understand the Epstein thing. The guy's a scumbag. You saw I even just had to make sure that was very clear, even with Professor Dershowitz. I don't care what he pleaded guilty to. The guy's a scumbag. And anybody who was around him who knew that should be outed. My criticism of the Democrats is, why didn't you release them during Biden? What is this newfound urgency? Is it just to hurt Trump?
Yeah, first of all, the newfound urgency is because of Trump's insane actions surrounding the files. It seems like Trump is using the federal power to protect not only the people in these files, but now he's targeting people selectively that he thinks might be in the files. But number one, the investigation was still partially ongoing under Biden. And to Prince Andrews, that investigation was only just recently dropped. Secondly, Biden's admin wasn't so openly just playing defense. There's a few key things that have happened that people are forgetting. Remember, the Trump FBI edited out 1 minute of Epstein's cell footage and then had no answer for that. Trump moved Ghislaine Maxwell to a low security prison and gave her special privileges. Trump's name was mentioned thousands of times. I just think the circumstances surrounding this are way different than anything under Biden's term, when a lot of the investigation was still ongoing. And one more thing, Biden wasn't weaponizing his DOJ in the same way that Trump is. Trump is openly sending letters to Pam Bondi saying, yo, Pam Bondi, you should go after this person, investigate this person might be guilty. Biden never did that with Merrick Garland, so I just think it's different.
Well, he certainly didn't do it the same way. Two things. One, you're right, people forget. This was also going on during the first Trump administration, okay? And there were Democrats who had urgency during the first Trump administration that then didn't have the same urgency during the Biden administration. And the second thing is that, yes, I understand the point of what has changed, but where do you expect this to go?
I just want full transparency. As an American citizen, I find it quite scary when the president seems to be using the institutions around him to protect some elites who seem to be pedophiles. I mean, Alan Dershowitz before was drawing the distinction between people who liked 17-year-olds versus 14-year-olds versus 9-year-olds. The woman, now she's a woman, like in present day, but she was talking about it. She was 14 years old. She was a girl. Yeah. When her parents came and talked to Jeffrey Epstein. So it's just, it's all definitely disgusting. I think what I want from this is a bit more transparency. I think that this
release the files.
The lack of transparency can be seen all across the administration. Like, remember, we haven't seen economic numbers from the BLS in 2 to 3 months now.
I agree.
Now, this lack of transparency can be seen everywhere. Like, they don't release the economic numbers. They don't release the files. Over and over, we just see a lack of transparency regarding crypto, regarding other transactions with Trump. It's weird.
I'm with you. I'm telling you. But I just feel like all that matters more. Okay, even the hiding of the statistics, the hiding of ICE statistics. And they keep quoting things that they won't release to everybody else in real time. I care about that more than this. I think this is a boogeyman. I think this is a boogeyman. And you can't convince me that with all the stuff that Democrats looked at and scrubbed and tried with to go after Trump, they had all of this important material in the Epstein files and just didn't use it. Well, listen, it just doesn't make any sense to me that Ghislaine Maxwell has never come out and dropped a dime. She got sent to a lesser security prison, a better prison. That's what happens. When you ask somebody who's in prison to do something, like talk to an investigator, they ask for something back. Her attorneys say it's not as cush as it's being made out to, but I'm still with you. Release all the files. I just don't get that energy right now when these other things matter more than Epstein's files.
Well, listen, this is a boogeyman that clearly resonates with tens of millions of Americans because they are sick of powerful people, powerful men in particular, abusing these power imbalances that exist within the structure to then benefit themselves, to hide stuff for themselves, and to let Jeffrey Epstein or the people in his immediate circle get away. Now, Donald Trump, throughout his entire life, has abused power imbalances whenever he got the chance, whether it's him walking into dressing rooms at beauty pageants that he owns, whether it's him grabbing women because they let him do it. And now that he has the ultimate power as the president of the United States, millions of Americans are like, we're sick of this. We're sick of watching the president cover stuff up when just 10 years ago, Jeffrey Epstein was emailing with Michael Wolff saying that they had leverage over Trump. They were essentially emailing about the leverage they could potentially have over Trump. Well,
right, I'm with you. But Adam, look, Epstein is the last guy we should be believing, okay? And Michael Wolff can explain it any way he wants. But this guy's a dirtbag, okay? So I don't know that I necessarily believe anything that Epstein was saying because he was a rapacious liar and victimizer. But I'm with you about your critiques and why people want it. Let's remember, it started on the right. And when they believed that they were all lefties, everybody wanted it to come out. Everybody thought that Clintons killed Jeffrey Epstein. I'm with you. But here's my thing. And I see this on affordability also. That's what people are really pissed off about. You guys have high ground on it for now. Trump is going to start running around the country saying it's his issue. And let me be honest, he's a better salesman than you guys. But why not focus there on affordability and don't say we'll do two things at once? You know we can't. Okay?
It's not
you
that.
know it.
Chris Cuomo is such a confounding figure to me. And, you know, this mustache thing that he's doing for Movember, look, that's a great cause, and I'm not making fun of supporting growing a mustache for Movember. It's a good cause. I don't know about the soul patch. In another video, I said this is dark Cuomo. That's just a bit of fun. The thing is he just goes, we can't do two things. So he seems to be aligning himself with the left. You know, we can't do two things, but I don't really I hear him, hey man, I agree with you. Epstein was a scumbag. We got to get him all out. But in the same breath, he's like, yeah, but what about, why didn't Biden do it? And what about this? And what about that? And I don't know if it's being on News Nation. I don't know if it's just exposure to his brother or getting kicked out of CNN. I don't know what Chris Cuomo's deal is. I think he makes some interesting points. You know, I think if it wasn't framed in a confrontational way, like, well, why now? But if it was really like in earnest, like, so why in this moment is this the thing to focus on? I think Adam Mockler actually has the correct answer to that, is that's what has traction right now. Right? So you can say, well, why not Biden? Well, things were still under investigation. Blah, 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 blah. You've already lost your audience, right? And when Chris Cuomo says Trump is a better salesman, I think that's what he's talking about. For one reason or another, when that orange dude opens his mouth and the baloney comes spilling out, people gobble it up. I've never understood it. And there's a lot of people I know that just have never understood it. But look, here we are. You know, here we are. So you have to grant that to Chris Cuomo, is that if he decides to start saying that this was his deal all along, that's just going to change the conversation. Everyone's just going to kind of roll with that, as absurd as that is. I think Adam Mockler trying to sort of, you know, justify it does paint a pretty accurate picture of where the Democrats are right now. Not a lot of tools to work with. The shutdown and however that went, whether you think they caved or whether you think that it was time to let it go for reasons. You know, the Epstein thing is something right now that has traction, and it is making Trump and his administration sweat, and they're doubling down on it. And it's worth saying, as both of these people have said, yeah, it's absolutely, Epstein was a scumbag. As I like to say, he was a James Bond villain with a private island and, you know, a sex trafficker, and lots of powerful people were involved, and this needs to be dragged out into the light, and we need to have accountability. People are starving for accountability, and the Democrats and Republicans love to point fingers at each other and play it for political gain I certainly think that the Trump administration has committed way more and harsher crimes against the Constitution than the Biden administration ever did. Although, as Cuomo points out, there's things to take issue with under the Biden administration, but it's not the same ball game in any stretch of the imagination. This is what has traction right now, and it's a worthy cause. And these victims have come forward bravely because it's a risky thing to come forward with this stuff. And we can't hang them out to dry. Now, what's actually going to come out of all this remains to be seen. I mean, this vote leaves a pretty glaring loophole, which is like, oh, if anything's under classified or under investigation, we can't release that stuff. That could be all of it.
Doesn't happen.
You want a real raw strategy answer? It's that Donald Trump has spent the past 24 hours melting down about Jeffrey Epstein on Truth Social, trying to defend himself for whatever, God knows what reason. You can intuit what reason, but he's melting down on Truth Social rather than focusing on affordability. And like I just said, you can use this lack of transparency on Epstein as a framework to see his lack of transparency on affordability, on the releasing of economic numbers. I think that just thinking that Democrats should ditch the Epstein issue, I don't know what the strategy would be there. The Epstein issue is important to millions of Americans, and it reveals how much of a sick MFer Donald Trump is, how he will use these institutions to protect himself, use them to enrich himself. He's talking more about the ballroom than he is affordability, more about the ballroom than he is Epstein. And like, I don't get your issue with us talking about two things at once. Trump talked about the border wall, the economy, and a few other things. We can talk about his cruelty, the economy.
Here's why, Adam. Here's why. He talked about them because that's his deal. It's not about doing anything. Right? He talks about them, and he's a great salesman. That's the con man is about confidence and the ability to sell. I don't believe you guys could do two things at once. I don't.
Oh, see, so now it's you guys. It was us, it's we, and now it's you guys.
I've never seen the Democrats execute any kind of strategy, let alone a dual one. I'm saying you have the right issue right now. I think the shutdown was the wrong way to do it. But right now, people in America, at least until the Epstein stuff, which you guys brought back up, right? When you had the opportunity to say, hey, so what's your plan, MAGA, for bringing down costs? If you say we're making it up about the subsidies and reimbursements and how to get costs down, what's your plan? They don't have one.
The good thing is, affordability will likely come back to the forefront because the ACA subsidies are still set to expire next month. I believe they expire.
Yeah,
I have a friend whose mom didn't even know she was reliant on these subsidies until the entire shutdown debacle happened. Then she realized, wait a minute, I'm reliant on these subsidies. Now she's hyper-focusing on what's happening. And she was apolitical before, too. So now she's watching, and it's going to be pretty clear which party shoots down the extension to the ACA subsidies and which party is fighting for lower premiums. So we could still pivot to this affordability issue. But, dude, Trump is squirming. Let us put Trump into a corner. He's squirming right now. Do you see his True Social posts? This dude is squirming.
Yes, I see him. It's only a matter of time before they're about me, by the way. So, I get it. I get the dynamic. I'm just saying the midterms are going to be about who connects to the majority, and affordability is the issue. And to me, it's just every moment spent on something other than that is a moment potentially wasted. But I'll tell you what's never wasted. Moments talking to you. You're smart, you're with it, you're connected, and I appreciate you.
Okay, that's sweet. But I do actually agree with Cuomo on one thing, that the affordability is a winner. That is the actual pain point people are feeling. And we've seen it in Mamdani's campaign. Red, blue, everything's expensive for everybody, unless you're a billionaire right now. So that being said, I'm more in alignment with Adam Mockler on this because I think that there is a way. You give him a couple of left hooks, you give him a couple of right hooks. Right now, Trump is on the ropes. This Epstein thing is causing pain. It's drawing some blood. It's connecting with people's emotional state, right? These poor women, 14-year-old girls, right? So it's like that is raising awareness in people's minds of what a creep this guy is. And that's really important. The affordability thing, that's how you stick the landing, because you need to hold them to account for not having a plan on fixing it, and healthcare too. I think so. You need to be focused on that, as Cuomo has said. But I think that Adam Mockler is right, is that you can punch him in the face and punch him in the gut, and maybe not. You don't ever try and punch him both places simultaneously. You can do the shutdown. You can work on the face a little bit. I don't know, this metaphor is breaking down, but you get what I'm saying, is that you stick with what's got traction at the moment. It's all true, right? How often do we see Donald Trump sweat? Nothing flaps the guy. So I think this is really important. You've got him where it hurts. Twist that. Get in there. Shine the light on it, Hold him to account for it. Why not? Why not release the files? It certainly looks and smells fishy. And what we know about Donald Trump, looks like a duck, walks like a duck. Come on. Everyone's innocent until they're proven guilty. That's why we want to take a look at the evidence, dude. And, as I've said in other videos, hey, if Bill Clinton's in there, if prominent Democrats are in there, I'm not about party lines. I don't think the Democrats are saying, well, only one side should be held accountable. The Democrats are saying, let's drag it all out and we'll hold everybody accountable. It is the Republicans that are picking Democrats that they see these names, and then they're saying, investigate those people. So as both of these people have said, I'm echoing it. Let's look at these files. I'm not optimistic that we're actually going to get much closure from this. It's heartbreaking to say. But of course, these powerful people, and even maybe governments, foreign governments that are involved in this, are not just going to be like, oh, well, I guess they want to see the files. I mean, they're going to do everything they possibly can to keep it in the dark, as they have up until now. So, I don't think they're, okay, you got the vote. That's 218. Here you go. It's just not going to happen. And it's never been that way. I hope that it does. I hope that there's some crazy twist here and that we get some closure and people are finally held accountable. But the trajectory in this country has been towards people dodging accountability, and more in the same way that wealth has been consolidating upwards into the hands of fewer and fewer people. So I'm not super optimistic about that. I do think the economy isn't going anywhere. And that is an issue that people are sick and tired of. And I think that's actually part of the reason why Trump got elected a second time. A big part of the reason is that you can scratch your head and wonder how they could believe this guy after the first term he ran. But I think some people are like, Biden isn't fixing it. We need to give something else a try, even if that something else was the horrible thing that we somehow have forgotten about from 4 years ago. And, things are still expensive. It's tough times, man. Wages haven't gotten any higher. I'm going to start to sound like Bernie Sanders here, because Bernie Sanders is right. And Bill Clinton said, it's the economy, stupid. It's the economy. And so I think when we approach the midterms, that is absolutely the anvil to be beating. The economy, affordability. And if Mamdani, in his first 2 years, can get some of these experimental programs up and running and highlight successes there, I think that can be some real wind in the sails for some progressive ideas. Won't say radical ideas, because they're hardly radical, but they're common sense ideas that could help Americans. And I think it would be, it'd be good to have him succeed. And then with the newfound name recognition he has, be able to hold that up as a model for other places where more progressive states can implement those things. And then we start to see some momentum towards things tipping in the right direction. That's my hope. So, I agree with Chris Cuomo on those points, but I'm a fan of Adam Mockler's. I think he's a bright young man, and he's in his early 20s. I'm just astounded by how he has leapt into this Shark Tank, really. These shows that you go on, Piers Morgan, whatever, they're fast and they're furious, and people do not hold back. And I admire him. He stays calm. He got his points are clear, and I'm really impressed by him. But let me know what you think in the comments. I mean, I'm presuming some of you are Adam Mockler fans as well. What do we think about Chris Cuomo? You know, I used to think of him as this kind of left-leaning guy, and then, you know, he got booted from the network and got tangled up in his brother's mess. And I know it's Movember, but he's wearing the soul patch with it. He's just looking like through a mirror darkly here. He's kind of trying to rebrand. He says, I'm with you. Then he says, you guys. And then he says, there's a lot of whatabouts and both side-isms. Is that News Nation? Or is that the new Dark Cuomo? I don't know. I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments.